At 2039, on November 9th, 1967, you're at 10,000 feet over Laos, inside the cockpit of an F-4 Phantom doing 500 miles an hour. 30 seconds later, you're on a limestone ridge in triple-canopy jungle with a bone sticking out of your left leg. You spend the next 46 days trying to crawl 3 miles to a road. You make it on Christmas Day. You don't make it to January. You're 25 years old. You're from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where your father runs a restaurant and your mother is Irish, and the cathedral where you were baptized is Serbian Orthodox because your grandparents came out of Serbia during the First World War. You played football at Bayview High School, all-city athlete, swimming, track, football. You turned down your first scholarship to do a year at the Naval Academy Prep School because you wanted to be a fighter pilot, and the path ran through the Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs. You graduated there in 1965. Varsity football for 3 years. You quit your senior year to focus on academics because you'd been put on probation for low grades as a freshman and you were not going to leave that mark on your record. You arrive at Da Nang Air Base in July 1967. You're a weapons systems officer in the backseat of an F-4C Phantom. You fly with the 481st Tactical Fighter Squadron. By the night of November 9th, you've flown 52 combat missions. The man in the front seat tonight is Lieutenant Colonel John Armstrong. Squadron Commander, West Point class of 1949. Your call sign is AWOL-1. Your target is Ban Lo Boi Ford, a river crossing on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Your aircraft is carrying 6 750-pound bombs. It's a routine interdiction mission against an enemy you never see. On the second pass over the target, something is wrong with the fusing on the bombs. They detonate 50 feet below the aircraft. The fireball engulfs your F-4 Phantom from below. The cockpit fills with alarms. The stick goes dead in Armstrong's hand. The aircraft climbs 1,000 feet on inertia and then enters a vertical dive toward the jungle. You pull the ejection handle. There's a 4-second eruption of noise and wind and metal, and then there's silk above you and darkness below, and you don't remember hitting the ground. When you wake up, you have a compound fracture of the left leg with the tibia through the skin, a mangled right hand with only the thumb and forefinger still working, a fractured skull, a concussion, and lacerations across most of your torso. Your survival kit is gone. Your radio is still clipped to your vest. Armstrong is not there. You will never see him again. Nobody will. His parachute was not sighted, his body was never recovered, and his name will go on panel 29E of the Vietnam Memorial in 1982. You're alone on a limestone karst ridge with jagged rock under your back and 3 miles of triple-canopy jungle between you and anything resembling civilization. You don't move for 36 hours. When you come back to yourself, it's the morning of November 11th. You get the radio working. A misty forward air controller in an F-100 picks up your signal. The authentication challenge comes back across the radio. Who is the greatest football team in the world? You answer without thinking. The Green Bay Packers. That's the phrase that brings the rescue birds. 140 aircraft get involved over 3 days. A-1 Sky Raiders, O-2s, F-4s, F-100s, AC-13 O Command Post with the call sign Crown. 9 to 20 of those aircraft take hits. 1 Sky Raider gets shot down, and the pilot has to be rescued himself. A Jolly Green Giant helicopter hovers over you for 33 minutes, dropping a jungle penetrator, but you can't see it through the canopy, and the parajumper on board can't see you through the canopy either. You tell him not to come down. There are bad guys below you, and you won't let another airman die for a man in your condition. I see you, you tell the pilot over the radio. I see you. Stay where you are. I'm coming to you. You don't come to him. You can't. The penetrator is 100 yards of solid vegetation away, and your leg is in 3 pieces, and your right hand won't hold a hook even if you could reach one. The helicopter takes fire. The A-1 escorts take fire. Night falls. They break off with a plan to come back. When they come back, your radio batteries are dead, and your signal is gone, and the jungle swallows everything. They list you MIA. The search is called off. You are, for official purposes, lost. You tell yourself you'll make it to the road. You heard trucks yesterday, faint but steady. Trucks mean a road, and a road means people, and people mean something other than dying alone on a rock. You slide down the limestone ridge on your back and your buttocks, pushing with your good leg, dragging the broken one. On the rocks cut through your flight suit, then through your skin. The dew on the leaves is your water. Grubs and ferns and moss are your food. You fashion a splint for the broken leg out of branches and your own webbing. The splint does almost nothing. The bone keeps shifting. You pass out from the pain multiple times a day. You wake up in positions you don't remember getting into. The jungle at night drops into cold. The monsoon rains come in waves. The leeches come with the water. Your skin stops healing because you're starving, and because there are no antibiotics, and because a body being consumed from the inside doesn't waste calories on closing wounds. You weighed 210 pounds when you ejected. By week 3, you're under 150. By week 5, you're under 100. You tell yourself another day. Just another day. Then you do it again. You crawl approximately 3 miles in 46 days. That's about a football field a week. On the morning of December 25th, 1967, you drag yourself out onto a dirt road and lose consciousness. A North Vietnamese truck convoy moving supplies down the Ho Chi Minh Trail finds you face down in the dust. You weigh 80 pounds. Your leg is a swollen black thing that looks nothing like a leg. Your hand is unrecognizable. They stand over you and try to decide whether you're already dead. You're not already dead. They carry you to a thatched hut. They put you on a bamboo mat. They cut open the left leg of your trousers to accommodate the swelling. They give you boiled rice and greens. You can't chew? A doctor who isn't a doctor eventually puts a cast on the leg, not to heal it, but to keep it from shifting when they move you. This is the first medical attention you have received since you hit the rocks 46 days ago. 3 days later, only one guard is in the hut with you. You wait. When he turns his back, you strike him in the base of the skull with a left-handed chop that knocks him unconscious. You take the shirt off his back and wrap it around your swollen leg for additional support. You take his carbine, and you crawl out of the hut, off the road, back into the jungle. You make it several hundred yards before the jungle ends you the second time. They find you within hours. The escape attempt will later be recorded in your Medal of Honor citation. Your interrogator, a man your fellow prisoners will eventually nickname the Rodent, Locke will describe the incident to Bob Craner in disbelief months later, because it violates everything the Rodent believed about what a man weighing 80 pounds with a compound fracture can physically do. They move you to a bamboo prison outside Vinh, North Vietnam, on New Year's Day, 1968. They put you in a cell across a hallway from an F-100 pilot named Bob Craner. In the cell one over from yours is Craner's backseater, Guy Gruters. Gruters was in your squadron at the Air Force Academy. He graduated 3 years before you. When they dump you on the cement floor of your cell, Gruters looks through the slats and doesn't recognize you. You're a skeleton 6 feet 2 inches tall, covered in your own waste, with a leg that should have been amputated a month ago. You look at Gruters through the slats. You say the first words anybody who knows your name has heard you say since November 9th. Aren't you Guy Gruters? Gruters has to ask you who you are. You tell him, Lance Sijan, Lance Sijan. He just stares because the name and the body in front of him don't belong to the same person. The Rodent tries to get information out of you. He sits you up against a wall and twists your injured arm and asks about your unit, your base, your mission, your codes. You give him your name, your rank, your service number, your date of birth, the 4 things the Geneva Convention permits. You say them in that order over and over for an hour and a half. When he twists your arm harder, you scream your own name at him. Sijan. My name is Lance Peter Sijan. Then you say, all right, you son of a bitch, wait till I get better. You're really going to get it. Craner listens through the wall. He told Sijan's story to a reporter in 1973, and that's what came out of him. The whole affair went on for an hour and a half, over and over, and the guy just wouldn't give in. You tell yourself you haven't given them anything. That's the only battle left. That's the whole battle. In the lucid moments between delirium episodes, you ask Craner and Gruters the same questions. How are we going to get out of here? How secure is this place? You try to do arm exercises on the bamboo mat to get ready for the next escape. You are 80 pounds. You cannot lift your own head. You are planning an escape. They transfer the 3 of you to Hoa Lo Prison in Hanoi on January 13th. The POWs call it the Hanoi Hilton. You ride in the open bed of a truck in the middle of the night with 2 55-gallon fuel drums that roll every time the driver hits a bomb crater. Craner cradles your head on his lap. Gruters holds the drums off of you. At one point on the trip, Craner tells Gruters that you've died. You hadn't. Not yet. You move. Craner says something you don't remember to you, and you ask him what you're going to do next, how we're going to get out of this situation. Those are your words, from the floor of a North Vietnamese truck, 80 pounds, dying. Hoa Lo is stone and concrete and standing water on the cement floor. Cold, damp. The prison doctor makes occasional visits. Look, cluck, walk back out. They finally cut the cast off your leg. They start an IV drip of some yellow fluid that's probably an antibiotic. In delirium, you pull the IV needle out. They put it back in. You pull it out again. Pneumonia arrives around January 18th. You don't last long after that. On January 21st, the guards come in with a stretcher. They lift you off the cement. Gruters and Craner watch from their cells. Before they carry you out, You come back to yourself one last time. You say 4 words. It's over. It's over. Then, in a voice that isn't the voice of a soldier anymore, you say the last words anybody hears you say. Oh God, it's over. Dad, I need you. You die on January 22nd, 1968. You are 25 years old. You have been a prisoner of war for 29 days. You have not given your captors a single piece of classified information. You have tried to escape once with a shattered body, attempted exercises for a second escape from a dying one, and spent your last lucid moments asking a man in the next cell how the 2 of you were going to break out of Hanoi. Your body stays in North Vietnam for 6 years. Bob Craner and Guy Gruters get out during Operation Homecoming in February 1973. The first thing Craner does when he gets home is write the Medal of Honor nomination. He does it because nobody else can. You never had a chance to file it. You were too busy dying correctly. Your remains come home on March 13th, 1974. Your parents bury you in Arlington Park Cemetery in Milwaukee with military honors. Your mother is Irish. Your father is Serbian. The casket is American. The priest says what priests say. On March 4th, 1976, President Gerald Ford hands your father the Medal of Honor in the East Room of the White House. Your mother is there. Your sister is there. Bob Craner is there. Guy Gruters is there. The citation describes the 46 days in the jungle, the escape attempt, the interrogation, the refusal to give information. It ends with the phrase, "at the cost of his life." Your father holds the medal in both hands and looks at it for a long time. You are the first graduate of the United States Air Force Academy to receive the Medal of Honor. You are, as of now, still the only one. They name a cadet dormitory after you at the Academy on Memorial Day, 1976. Sijan Hall. Every 4th class cadet who lives there is required to know your story. They memorize the dates. November 9th, December 25th, January 22nd. They memorize the injuries. They memorize the escape attempt. They memorize what you said to the rodent in that cell in Vinh. They are 18 years old when they learn it. Most of them never meet anyone who knew you, because the people who knew you are getting old and dying, and the people who didn't know you are writing books and making documentaries and painting portraits and sculpting bronze figures and trying to hand down a story that can't quite be handed down because nobody was in that jungle with you for 46 days. Your sister Janine spends most of her adult life trying to fill in the version of you that existed before November 9th. She says people can look up to a hero, but they can relate to a person, and she's right. But the problem is that there's almost nothing left of the person. There's a football photograph, a yearbook page, some academy records, a roommate's memories. But her 46 days in a Laotian jungle and 29 days in North Vietnamese prisons have a gravitational pull that drags everything else in. Bob Craner dies in 1981. Guy Gruters is still alive. He speaks about you at veterans events. He tells the same story each time, and each time it costs him something because he was in the next cell and he heard it, and he can still hear it 40 years later. Armstrong, the man in the front seat, is still out there somewhere in Laos. His name is on the memorial wall in Washington. His remains are on a mountain you never saw. The Lance P. Sijan USAF Leadership Award gets presented every year at the Pentagon on your birthday, April 13th. 4 airmen receive it, selected from 660,000. They stand at a podium and read about a man who crawled 3 miles in 46 days on a broken leg and never said anything to his captors that he wasn't required by the Geneva Convention to say, and they try to figure out what it would mean to be him, and most of them go home understanding that they wouldn't have been. That's the part that doesn't fit on a plaque. You didn't crawl through that jungle because you were tougher than other men. You crawled because you were you, and that was the only way you knew how to be. Your roommate Mike Smith said it first. When you accepted something, you accepted it. You did nothing halfway. The code wasn't a discipline you applied. It was an extension of who you already were. 46 days on a limestone ridge in Laos, 3 miles, a bone through the skin, a hand that wouldn't close, a skull fracture, 80 pounds at the end, a left-handed chop to a guard's neck when you could barely lift your own arm, an interrogation that lasted 90 minutes and yielded nothing, a cell in Hanoi with standing water on the floor, 2 men in the next cell trying to keep you alive with rice they didn't have and words you couldn't hear. You didn't make it. That's the piece the Medal of Honor citation doesn't say out loud. The heroism was real, and the courage was real, and the refusal was total, and you still didn't make it. That's what the 4th class cadets in Sijan Hall learn when they're 18 and don't fully understand yet. They will understand it later. Some of them will understand it on a mountain somewhere. Some of them will understand it in a hospital bed. Some of them will never have to understand it. Which is what you would have wanted for all of them, because you were not the kind of man who thought his own sacrifice should be repeated. You died on January 22nd, 1968, in a cell in Hanoi. You have been dead for 58 years. The road you crawled toward is still there. The jungle has grown back over everything. Nobody knows the exact rock where you landed. The bone that broke through your skin became part of the mountain a long time ago. There's a bronze statue of you on the Plaza of Heroes at the Academy. It went up in 2015. It's a young man in a flight suit, looking forward, not up. That's deliberate. You weren't looking up for help. You were looking at the ground 3 feet in front of you, because the ground 3 feet in front of you was the only distance that mattered, and getting to it took everything you had.